everybody, Shane here, Shoebox Legends. Thanks for tuning in for a quick buyback rummage episode today. Had a few minutes free, wanted to get on, do a video, and figured we would dive back into this newly created Morgan Brothers cream cheese box that contains a whole bunch of significant buyback cards from my kind of backlog of those cards. I have a ton of them that I still need to process against my Franken set and my other collections and projects. So we're going to do what we normally do and just kind of pull out of this box for maybe 10 minutes or so, see what comes out. And we start with a great one here, Hall of Famer Red Schoendienst on the 1970 Topps release. He was, of course, in the managerial stage of his career at this point, but this is a 2019 Topps Heritage box topper buyback, and it has some kind of weird effect on the border of the card here that almost looks like marbling or something. I have no idea what happened to this thing when it was out in circulation the first time around, but purchased back by Topps, stamped with this beautiful gold stamp, and this would have been reissued as a box topper card, individually wrapped in 2019 Topps Heritage. So great card there of a Cards Great, and I love the cards where the Cardinals cards actually say the word cards right on the front. That's just very, very fitting for our hobby. So cool first card there. Then we have a fun one next here, 1979 Topps, the Candyman John Candelaria. And of course, this one is significant, a great pitcher in his own right. But 1979, the Pittsburgh Pirates had an incredible team that year. They're known as the We Are Family Pittsburgh Pirates. I've seen a whole documentary or at least brief episode about that team. And I find them really interesting and love this shot of a younger John Candelaria here. This is like maybe like a fourth year card, but a pretty neat buyback nonetheless. And we'll put him up next to Red there. So a couple of 70s baseball cards to start us off, and we'll stick with that theme for a third consecutive card. And one here where the player is not nearly as significant to me as the image. This is the famed Luis Alvarado from 1973 Topps. And for obvious reasons, I love this one. It's got the parking lot with some nice early 70s automobiles there, visible in the background as a play is being turned at second base. So really wild photograph. One that is stuck in my memory ever since the first time I saw this card, and was really excited to find a buyback version. You can see the little stamp there, Topps 75th, that indicates this was a 2014 Topps buyback. So some lucky collector pulled that out of their hobby pack of 2014 Topps baseball. We got a real fire card up next here, at least for me personally. The 1990 Topps release is my favorite set of all time because it's the set that got me into the hobby. The very first cards that I opened wax packs of all the way back in the spring of 1990. And it developed my love of Nolan Ryan, given that he had the first 5 cards on the checklist, his base card, and then 4 of these 5,000K subset cards. This is his, of course, with the Houston Astros. Shout out to my buddy Brent. And this is a Rediscover Topps 2017, the bronze foil. I think I do have one of these in the Franken set, but this will be used for another buyback project that I have going on kind of behind the scenes over here that I hope to unveil in the future. So great Nolan Ryan there. Never a bad day to add a Nolan Ryan buyback to the collection. We got a burlap card up next from Com C. Gonna do the Com C crumple with the receipt. But this is Al Downing for the Yankees. I think famous for giving up a couple of really big hits. And I could be wrong about this. Again, I do these episodes on the fly without editing, but I want to say off the top of my head, he may have given up number 715 to Hank Aaron. But either way, great shot here. I love the Yankees Stadium facade in the background there for a Yankees card, just perfect. And another Topps Heritage box topper buyback. I've picked up so many of these over the years. Love the idea of those box toppers. So 68 Al Downing. And then we move to the very next year with a 69 Rico Petrocelli. Fan favorite here in Boston with the Red Sox. Really good player throughout the 60s and into the 70s. And a spring training image, it looks like to me, in the background there. So pretty cool Heritage box topper. This one would have been atop a box of 2018 Topps Heritage, which of course paid tribute to the 1969 design. So Yankees Red Sox rivalry pulled over those last 2 cards. All right, here's a fun one, and I got to take the tape off. This will go nicely with the Nolan Ryan that you see up in the background because it is another significant 1990 Topps Buyback. So let's take a look here. And you know what? I'm just going to actually have to remove this. The seller in this case did an incredibly thorough tape job here. I'm actually breaking the top loader to remove this thing. But from that 90 Topps release that I talked about, the George Brett on the 2017 Rediscover program. This is a bronze foil, as you can see pretty well in the light here today. One of the all-time greats, of course, had that epic 1980 season, chasing 400, Hall of Famer. Just love the Royals blue and the blue border. I do wish he had a hat on this card, but other than that, not bad. And this one will either go into the Franken set at slot number 60, or if not, will go into my absolutely insane collecting project, which is trying to collect an entire 1990 Topps set, all in buyback format. And I have, at this point, over 700 cards of the 792 in that 90 Topps buyback binder. So George will be a solid addition to that. Hall of Famers are not easy to find. Going back to the 70s here with our second 1973 Topps card of the episode, and it's Buddy Bell. Great player in his own right, but this one is largely here because of the Topps All-Rookie Team Trophy Cup. Love that on the 70s cards. And another great Yankee Stadium shot here of Buddy with the Cleveland Indians. This one is well worn. I mean, a lot of these took a beating during their first time out in people's collections, out in the hobby. I mean, look, there's paper loss on the back. These corners are completely rounded. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody was playing the game corners with this card and throwing it up against the wall back in the day, because this thing was well loved, but I think it makes it even cooler and a great potential number 31 for my buyback Franken set. We're sticking in the 70s here, and we've got our second 1970 Topps Hall of Famer today. How about that? Bill Mazeroski. Of course, this is 10 years after his infamous World Series winning home run. Still looks pretty jacked there. Bill had been lifting some weights throughout the 60s. And yeah, just a cool card. I love the green grass, the ballpark employees in the background here, and kind of the staged kneeling against the bat photograph. Looks like his helmet and glove are in the foreground here. So another great Topps Heritage Hall of Famer. Not easy to come by Hall of Famers from that buyback program. We got one odd hockey card. There is some hockey in the box here. It's not all baseball. It's, you know, the majority of it is baseball. But this is a Pro Set buyback. I've talked about these before, but they did these back in 2020, coinciding basically with the pandemic. Leaf put out a set called Pro Set Memories, and they did these stamped buybacks numbered to 5 of the original 3 years of Pro Set hockey. And I love the color matching on this Mike Vernon. The red and yellow in the borders just fits with that flame sweater so well. This is like the brown leather pad era. Vernon, of course, a really good player. In fact, I want to say he may have recently been inducted to the Hall of Fame within the last few years. Could be wrong about that. Again, I don't do any research here as I'm pulling these cards live. But either way, great hockey buyback for me of a player that I remember from my youth, numbered to 5. I can't get enough of those. We're going back now to the 50s with a very early buyback from 1958 Topps. This is Virgil Trucks, who had one of the best nicknames, Fire. So Virgil Fire Trucks. And this is another one much like the Buddy Bell. In fact, even more beat up than the Buddy Bell. There's some kind of crud on the front here, or like a stain. There's snow. There's light creasing right through the middle of the card. The corners are beat to heck. I mean, there's barely even a corner down here at all. There's some dog ear action going on. Anything that could be wrong with this card. There's some wax on the back, you know, short of maybe writing. I don't see any handwriting or like a pinhole, but there's another vertical crease. So really well-loved Virgil Fire Trucks from 1958 Topps, reissued in 2015 Topps Baseball as part of the Topps original buyback program, and a very sneaky potential candidate for card number 277 in the Franken set. So some great vintage baseball today in this rummage. And we go modern here, and this one just makes me snicker. Was a big fan of Big Sexy Bartolo Colon during his career. A man who demonstrated that you do not need an Olympian's physique to succeed at the sport of baseball, and just a really fun personality. Loved watching him over the years. Provided a lot of enjoyment and really just seemed to enjoy the game himself as he was participating. Just a hilarious individual. And this is a 2017 rediscover of his 2015 Topps issue. So this card was only 2 years old when it was reissued as a buyback, which is kind of cool. I'm a big fan of the 2015 Topps design. I think it's colorful on the borders in the same way that 1990 is. So I always appreciated it for that reason. And this is a really cool Bartolo Colon. So hopefully he'll be represented in the Franken set with that one. And then let's close it out here today with this card that is a little bit bittersweet here to be pulled by this Red Sox fan. But from the 1968 Topps release, this is the Cardinals Celebrate card, of course, them winning the 1967 World Series. You've got some notable people here. I think this is Tim McCarver in the foreground. That looks like Nelson Bryles to me next to him. But love the shot here, the champagne being poured down on the celebrating players. And even though they beat my impossible dream Red Sox in that 67 World Series, I love these type of cards. This would be the finale. So they would have the 7 cards prior to this. There was one for each game that highlighted the game. And then this card commemorated that little World Series subset with a championship photo for the Cardinals. So a great card for any St. Louis fan, and very fitting that we began the episode with Red Schoendienst and we end the episode with a Cardinals Celebrate World Series Championship buyback card. And that will conclude today's rummage. Appreciate you stopping by. I'll be back very soon with the finale of my top 100 cards countdown. The final cards, number 25 through number 1, will be up later this week. But in the meantime, just enjoy the hobby, everybody, and we'll talk soon. Take care.